world should understand their eternal life and go back to home, back to God. And that can only be done in this age by devotional service. There's no other way. Nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva. Harinama, harinama, harinama eva kevalam. Nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva. There is no other path. It's not yatamat tatapat. Or, it's not that. That any way you choose in your independence you decide this is spiritual or that is spiritual. It's not that at all. There's only one way. Harinama, harinam, harinam. Nam namakari bahuda nidasharva shakti tatrapita niyamita smarane na kala. And there are no restrictions in your holy name. So things can be adjusted by the devotees, by the authorities, by the acaryas, bona fide acaryas. Things can be adjusted in order to engage the people. It's not that there is one standard that is called pure preaching and another standard that's not pure preaching. It's bogus. If I sell books, that's pure preaching. If I collect money for printing books, that's not pure preaching. It's a preposterous statement. That there's only one way. There is, of course, only one way back to Godhead. That's bhakti. Bhaktyamam abhijanati javanjascha asmi tattvat. Krishna says, only by bhakti can I be understood. But within the field of bhakti, there are so many varieties and aspects and procedures. Not that only one is pure and everything else is impure bhakti. That's contradictory. Even Krishna himself went in disguise when he had to approach the atheist Jarasandha. So Krishna himself showed the example. Some people say, why don't you go out with shaved heads and kurta, dhoti, tilak, and approach the people? In some countries you can do that. In some countries you cannot. You see? So not even Krishna could approach Jarasandha as Krishna, nor could Arjuna, nor could Bhimsen. They had to disguise themselves as Brahmanas. Of course, Jarasandha was a very strict follower of the Vedic culture, but he was an atheist because he did not recognize Krishna as the Supreme. So in order to get something out of Jarasandha, they dressed themselves as Brahmanas. And they got what they wanted. Because when they approached Jarasandha, he said, oh, you are Brahmanas? What do you want? I must give you whatever you want. He said, we want to fight you. So because he had given a promise to a Brahmana, he did not break it. But when he saw this is Krishna, he said, I won't fight Krishna. He is a coward. And Arjuna is too young. But Bhimsen, he's the proper candidate. So they fought. The point is that they approached him in that way in order to get something from him. To accomplish their end. Similarly, in this 1985 in Australia, we have to approach people in a certain way. Sometimes we have to go in disguise, because we are dealing with people who are not that favorably disposed to helping the Hare Krishna movement. Because the mentality of the people in this age is all atheistic. So we have to adjust according to time and place. So we go in disguise and we get something from the people. So some people, oh, you're only interested in money. That's also, we're not interested in money. We're not interested in money. We are interested in the product of the money. That's what we're interested in. We are only interested in Prabhupada's literatures. That's all. But in order to print that literature, in this age it requires money to run the printing presses. Because one devotee was coming back from India, he met one other so-called devotee on the plane. He said, what do you think of the preaching? And, oh, you're too absorbed in money. We're not absorbed in money. We are absorbed in distributing the mercy of Lord Chaitanya through the medium for this age, Srila Prabhupada's books. But in order to do that, it requires money. The more money we can collect, the more books we can print, the more we can distribute, the more people will have an opportunity to be delivered from this rotten material world. This has to be very clear. You have to keep this very clearly in your mind. That's pure preaching. When you have the goal always in your mind. Just like in the Lilamrita, Prabhupada was in the marketplace, he was buying paper, he was moving here and there, he had bank accounts. He didn't have very much in those bank accounts, but he had bank accounts. He went begging from door to door. He went even into the tea stalls, just like sometimes you devotees go into the bars, the pubs. But Prabhupada was in the tea stalls trying to sell his magazine Back to Godhead, but he didn't take tea. Similarly, if you go into the pubs, but you stop to have a beer, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. But even we are willing to go to hell in order to distribute the mercy of Lord Chaitanya to the most hellish places, even in the pubs. And we are deceiving them, but it's a good deceit. It's a transcendental deceit. Because they're being engaged in service. This is Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, 1985. Maybe the year 2000 we'll be able to print 1 million books just from selling books, like in other countries. But not in 1985 we can. Therefore, the symptom of our surrender is we are willing to do anything that is necessary as long as it is authorized. Not that we go out and rob a bank. That's not authorized. But we're willing to do whatever is authorized in order to push on this movement. This movement cannot be pushed on in a vigorous way if you maintain some idealistic position of what is pure preaching and what is not. While you are so proud of your idea of pure preaching, millions and millions of people are dying and going to hell. With your idea of pure preaching, you're reaching one person. Meanwhile, those who you consider yourself above, you're too good to just go out and collect money to print books. They are helping to deliver thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So who is the better devotee? That, of course, is a philosophical discussion. You can't be a better devotee if you are proud of your idea and not willing to surrender to the idea of the majority, which has proven itself as working. Of course, even something has been proven to work, that doesn't mean that other things can't be done also to increase the preaching. But this idea, pure preaching, impure preaching, collecting money is impure, that's absolutely 100% bogus. According to time, place, and circumstance, that is the ability of the acaryas and the leaders of this movement to be able to do that. See? Even in India, where they distribute so many books, you may think, oh, they're not maintaining even by distributing those books. Those books are subsidized. They go to a big industrialist, enlist him as a life member, then go back and see him and say, give us a donation, 20,000 rupees. But you see, so many books are being sold in parts of India, but they're being sold at a cheap price because they're subsidized. If they had to sell them at the price, that normal price, they wouldn't sell 1/4 of the books that they're selling. You see? So they're subsidized by big industrialists. If we had to support our BBTs in India on the profit from the books, there would not be many books printed. So you have to adjust according to time, place, and circumstance. If you go to Mr. Holmes a la Corte, is that his name? Robert Holmes a la Corte? Holmes a la Corte. If you go and see him, he's not going to give you a check for $100,000 to subsidize Srimad Bhagavatams in Australia. But if you go and see Mr. Birla in India, he will. So we have to go in disguise sometimes, just like Krishna and Arjuna. And sometimes we have to trick the atheists, just like the atheist Jarasandha. And it was ultimately for his benefit, because he was killed by a devotee in the presence of Krishna. He was liberated. That's for his benefit. Similarly, if someone gives 1 penny even to this movement, that's their eternal benefit. And if they give more, that's even more eternal benefit in the unlimited eternality. Nor is there any room for sentiment. If you can get more out of somebody, I was explaining in Brisbane, that at this time of year there is a national or international psychosis which grips the Christian world. They must spend money. They are unable to not spend money. So don't think that if you get that extra 5 or 10 from them, that you're going to be taking food out of the mouths of starving children. You're not. They'll only spend it on some other nonsense. They'll go to the pub, or they'll buy a bigger turkey, or a bigger ham, because they must spend it. They just don't want, they want to end up at the end of Christmas totally broke. Then they feel that their 1 year of hard work has been a success. So if you don't take the money, they're going to spend it on something else. They're not going to save it. So you have to be very clever how to get the most out of them. And don't be afraid that some child will go hungry. It won't. They'll spend it on some other nonsense. So this time of year is, of course, in Australia, our most important time. Of course, all devotional service is important, but it's at this time of year that we are able to, at the end of this marathon, begin our book production for next year. Now, we have already discussed at our last meeting during my birthday that this coming year we're going to experiment different ways to distribute Prabhupada's books. Not that we print books, that everyone works very hard collecting money, that we print the books and let them sit in the go-downs. We don't want that either. We want that the books should be distributed, especially distributed in Australia, because we want to deliver Australia. Prabhupada, of course, said that you should think the whole world first and your nation second. But we're not able to think, we can't collect enough money to print for the whole world. We want to just deliver Australia. That's our main task at hand. And because of the nature of the Australian people and the population of the country, it is not that, what is the word? That far out of the question that Australia could become a Krishna conscious country. It's not that unrealistic. The people are already becoming more and more favorable. How are they becoming more and more favorable? They're becoming more and more favorable because they're beginning to read Prabhupada's books and understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, understanding that the Krishna conscious devotees are men and women of principle, that they stand on religious principles, that they have a standard, and they respect that. Even they may not be able to follow that standard. That doesn't matter. Even if they have a nice thought about this movement, that's to their advantage. So none of you, because a lot of responsibility is resting on your shoulders at this time. And we've been through a lot, of course, in the past, especially in the past few months. But all of that is behind us. Time is on our side. Now, we've asked you, of course, to have some faith and give us some time. But we're asking you one more thing. Just one more thing we're requesting of you. Make this the biggest marathon, Prabhupada marathon, ever. Strain yourself beyond your limits. To prove to the world, ISKCON world, that Australia is healthy and happy and sound. You see? Our prestige is on the line. Of course, in the international ratings, we may not figure that high because of the drop in the Australian dollar. But that doesn't matter. Everyone will know that Australia is sound, Krishna conscious, Krishna consciously healthy, and everyone is happy. So we're just requesting one more thing from you. That's all. Let's make this the biggest Christmas marathon, Prabhupada marathon, ever in the history of Australia. Just to show everyone. Kind of like this. So there. You say this and you say that, but just look. Prabhupada said, I forget, what is it? Phalam paricchite? Is that? You judge the tree by the fruit. You judge the tree by the fruit. If the tree is crooked and has some blemishes, but if it produces a beautiful mango, you don't refuse the mango because the tree was crooked. Do you? You accept the mango. So in the same way, our jatra here in Australia and our leaders and I myself, ultimately we will be judged by the fruits. Those fruits are temples, disciples, and books. That's what Prabhupada said. I don't care what standard someone else may make. I only care what is Prabhupada's standard. And he said, someone's value, someone's worth is determined by temples opened, devotees made, and books distributed. Those are the fruits, transcendental fruits that we're after. We don't want anything else. And if someone in this movement can't accept that as proof of the health of a zone, then what can we do? If they want as proof of the health of a zone how high a Vyasa-san is or how big a picture is, that's petty. It's actually small time. And they are also small time brains. We judge a thing by Prabhupada's standard, which was never Vyasa-sans or pictures. It was books, devotees, and temples. That's the standard. So at this time of year especially, it's books. It's money for books.